Have you ever felt like your AI assistant just hits a wall? You give it a complex task and it just can't quite get there? Well, you're not alone. We're at the next big step in AI, and it's time to stop thinking about a single do-it-all assistant. It's time to start thinking about building an expert AI team. Let's get into why.
So, what's the deal? Why do even these incredibly powerful AI models seem to stumble when the going gets tough? Well, it's because a single agent, no matter how smart, just doesn't have the range of specialized skills needed for those multi-step, really nuanced problems.
And the answer is actually pretty simple when you think about it. Real work is never about just one thing. I mean, you wouldn't ask your best graphic designer to start writing production-level code, right? It's the same idea here. You can't expect one AI to be an amazing researcher, a creative writer, and a super detailed code reviewer all at once. The real magic happens with specialization and teamwork.
And that brings us to the core idea here, multi-agent systems. Now that's the official name for these AI crews. It's basically a setup where you have multiple AIs, each one given a very specific job, and they all work together. They divide up the work, they collaborate, they pass tasks back and forth to tackle a problem that would totally overwhelm just one of them.
Okay, so take a look at this. This gives you a perfect picture of a classic AI crew. When you make a request, it doesn't go to just one place. First, it hits a planner agent. Its only job is to break that big problem down into smaller, bite-sized pieces. Then it hands those off to a writer agent to do the actual work. But it doesn't stop there. The output then goes to a reviewer agent, which creates this amazing feedback loop that makes the final result so much better.
So, this all sounds great, but how do you actually build one of these AI teams? Well, that's where development frameworks come into play. Let's take a look at the two big players in this field right now, Crew AI and Microsoft's AutoGen.
You know, the philosophies behind these two are really fascinating. Crew AI is all about being role-based. You literally define agents with specific jobs. You've got a researcher, a writer, a validator, and you set them up in a really clear, structured workflow. Think of it like a project manager handing out tasks. AutoGen, on the other hand, is driven by conversation. It's much more like a brainstorming session, where agents kind of talk to each other, and the solution just emerges from their back-and-forth chat.
All right, let's put them side by side, because when you're deciding which tool to actually use for a project, there are some pretty big differences that you need to know about, especially if you're trying to get something from just an idea into the real world.
The trade-offs become really clear when you see them like this. Crew AI is awesome for beginners. Its role-based structure is super intuitive and you can get started fast. AutoGen is definitely for the more experienced crowd that needs a ton of flexibility. But, and this is probably the most important point for any new project, look at that 2025 status. Crew AI is getting tons of updates and it's growing, while Microsoft has basically put AutoGen into maintenance mode.
Human oversight is absolutely critical, and they handle it in totally different ways. With Crew AI, you can set up a formal review gate. I mean, the process literally just stops and waits for a person to click approve before it moves on. AutoGen is a bit more fluid about it. It just treats the human like another agent in the chat who can be brought in for their opinion at any point.
Now, you might be wondering if this is all just some niche experimental tech. But the truth is, it's already everywhere. Just think about this number for a second. 60%. That's right, over 60% of Fortune 500 companies are already using multi-agent systems. This isn't some trend that's coming in the future. It's happening right now. These systems are moving out of the lab and into the real world.
But that leap into the real world, that's where things get really tricky. And this quote just nails the core challenge perfectly. A system that works great on your laptop can completely fall apart when you put it under the stress of a real production environment. So how do you bridge that gap? How do you make sure your system survives? Well, we've looked at hundreds of real-world deployments and boiled it down to 9 essential rules for building multi-agent systems that are actually ready for production.
Okay, let's start with the foundation. Rule number 1, start simple. Seriously, resist the urge to over-engineer everything. A 2-level setup is almost always enough. Second, you have to master context engineering. Think of the context window as the agent's short-term memory. If you cram too much in there, performance tanks and costs go way up. You have to actively manage it. And third, the 30-second rule. No single task should ever take longer than 30 seconds. This stops things from timing out and keeps the whole system snappy.
All right, next up, let's talk about reliability. Rule 4, monitor everything. You need to be tracking how your agents are doing, how the system is doing, and how it's affecting your business goals. You can't fix what you can't see. Rule 5 is all about solid error handling.
Things are going to break. Your system has to be able to handle that gracefully with retries and backups. And Rule 6, please prioritize security. Never ever trust agent inputs blindly. You have to validate everything, use rate limiting, and protect your data.
And for our last set of rules. Number 7, choose the right framework for the job you're doing right now. Number 8, test, test, test. I'm talking unit tests for individual agents, integration tests for the whole crew, and even evaluation tests where you actually use another AI to act as a judge on the quality of the output. And finally, number 9, plan for scale and cost from day one. Use caching wherever you can, and use cheaper, faster models for the simple tasks to keep your budget from exploding.
You know, the most successful projects all follow this pattern of gradual autonomy. You don't just build the thing and flip a switch, letting it run wild. You launch it with 100% human review. And then, as you watch its performance, as it proves itself and you build trust, you slowly, carefully reduce that oversight. That is how you deploy these things responsibly and effectively.
So in the end, building a multi-agent system is really just like building a human team. The question you have to ask yourself isn't just, is it smart, but does it work together? Have you built a well-oiled machine, or have you just created another chaotic meeting that doesn't really get anything done? The difference really comes down to the architecture and the best practices we've talked about today.